Well, hello there, pen fans. Brian Goulet here from gouletpens.com for another ink showdown. This one is coming quick off the heels of the turquoise one because I kind of wanted to do a teal one, following up right off of that because I was like, man, these turquoises are really blue. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. I'm also going to compare those swabs because I kept them all of the turquoises. I'm going to compare them next to the teals so you can see them all together. Just a big old ink bonanza. So I got 10 inks that I've selected for you here. These are all inks that we carry at Goulet Pens. And yeah, I chose everything that had teal in the name, but then there's not as many inks that have teal in the name as there are the ones that have turquoise in the name. So I tried to mix it up with different brands, different kind of color ranges, try and get an interesting mix. So it'll be interesting to see like how close to blue does it go? You know, I don't know, just teal and turquoise, it's just one of those colors that like a lot of people kind of debate. Where's that line? Anyway, I've got them all here. I've got my tools of the trade. So I've cut up some Tomoe River 52 gram white paper. It's very ink resistance, so it shows color really well. It shows a lot of shading and sheen and stuff like that. So that paper is really good for that. I have two pens. I have a Rohrer & Klingner glass pen, which is pretty wet. And then I have my Kakimori dip pen, which is going to give me a good kind of a swath of ink. I find that really does a lot to bring out the color. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do today. Maybe I'll do some superlatives at the end, and you can see kind of how they all look. So I'm really excited about this. Let's get into it with the first one. Jacques Herbin 1670 Emerald of Chivor. I guess technically this is Emeraude de Chivor, but everybody knows it as Emerald of Chivor. This is one of my favorite inks. I'm a little biased on this one, so I'm doing this one first. It's also a very, very popular ink. A lot of y'all have used this, seen it, but if you haven't, well, it's pretty cool. It's definitely on the premium ink range. It is a shimmering ink, so I'm gonna have to give it a little bit of a shake to get that shimmer in suspension here as we get started. So this is a very dark teal with a lot of red sheen and some gold shimmer to it. So it's not your normal teal ink, but when I think of like really captivating teal inks or inks in this teal range, Emerald of Chivor definitely pops up in my mind. So had to start it off with this one. Yeah, so this should be pretty good. So give me a second here. I'll shake this up and then we'll swap it out. All right, now I got that all shaken up. So grab my little piece of paper. Boom. So I'm going to start it off with the glass pen. I'll write out the name. Give it a little dip. All right. Jacques. It's very wet on the glass pen. 1670. Oh, it's like all gone. How about that? It just flows right off the glass pen. Emerald of Chivor. I just realized I accidentally grabbed two pieces of paper. Okay, goes on very, very wet. So it's a pretty wet flowing ink. Of course, it's going to behave different in a fountain pen than it will in a glass pen, of course, but it does, give me some idea, at least, about how it might flow in a fountain pen. And I've used this ink a ton, so I know it is a fairly wet writing ink. So there we go, and then let's do a little swab. Now, me personally, I tend to keep this ink almost exclusively dedicated. I mean, I'll use it in other pens, but I will use it primarily in a TWSBI Eco that I keep inked up because the Eco does a fantastic job of keeping it like wet. It doesn't dry out. It doesn't cause any writing issues. And boy, it does not want to flow very well with Kakimori. That's interesting. Yeah. It does a really good job of not drying out for, I'm talking like months. I believe when we first carried the TWSBI Eco a decade ago, I had several of them. I inked one up with Emerald of Chivor and sort of forgot about it. And I think it sat there for 8 solid months and picked it up and it wrote right off the bat. So that was pretty cool. Your mileage may vary, but that was my experience at least. And I've had really good experiences with the Eco and with this ink ever since. So this is a go-to ink for me. So yeah, nice dark color, a lot of blue to it, but definitely strong on the green as well. I think this is a pretty strong teal color. Like this is a very much a color that I would associate as being a teal. Now I know when this thing dries, you're going to see a lot of that red sheen come out. You're going to see a lot of that gold shimmer. So we're going to set that aside, come back to it, and see what else that we've got. Pilot Iroshizuku Ku-jaku. Now just like Emerald of Chivor, this is an ink that I've used a good bit. And I got to say, I really like the bottle. You know, it's a different style completely than the Herbin bottle. These are both of what I would consider to be like premium inks. But, you know, different look classy. The thing I like about the Iroshizuku bottles is they have this little dip down the bottom so you can put your nib down. It just allows you to get more fill out of the bottle. So it's kind of a nice touch. But anyway, we're not really here to evaluate the bottle so much, though I guess that is part of what you're paying for, right? If you're getting a full bottle. Okay, so Ku-jaku. I'm a big fan of this. You know, Iroshizuku inks are pretty well regarded in terms of their, you know, quality, in terms of their flow, dry time, ease of cleaning, stuff like that. So let's give it a shot. Pilot. Okay, and then Ku-jaku. Oh, that's a very H-looking K. Sorry about that. Could have done better. All right, well, either way, you know what it is. Okay, so it starts out going down looking pretty blue. You know, there is blue and there is green and all these things. So, yeah, I imagine most of these teals are kind of going to lean one way or the other. But from my experience of using this, it definitely greens up a bit as it dries. So you can see there, it's going down pretty blue looking. Not anything unusual based on what I expect from this ink. Kind of like stealing its thunder, because I think that's part of the fun of this ink actually, is when you use it, it goes down one color and it kind of looks a different color once it dries. So we'll leave that sitting for a minute there, and then you know, you'll see the green start to come out. You can already see it a little bit on the edges there. Now I will say, all of these colors may not be like 100% accurate in video form, because this color range is really, really hard to capture in digital, both photo and video, but especially video, because the lighting is changing, you know, dynamically. So, you know, that's fine, but there's no substitute for like actually getting samples of these and writing with them yourself. But there you go. I can tell it's greening up a little bit as it dries. Got a little bit of a sheen there too. So I'm going to put that there. I know it's not going to end up darker than Emerald of Chivor. So we're going to kind of go dark to light. And yeah, so that's two. Here's the next one. Monteverde, California Teal. All right, we got a big old hunkin' bottle. No shimmer or anything on this, so I'm not going to shake it up a lot. I don't know why I shook it actually. You don't necessarily have to do that with most inks. It's not a bad idea to just give it a little shake once in a while if it's been sitting there. Ooh, now I can see just even looking in the bottle, there's a lot more green to this one than there was, especially with Ku-jaku. So this will be interesting to see. Now this actually has teal in the name. So let's go Monteverde, California Teal. This is a pretty popular color. I feel like teals in general are a fairly popular color range. I think because like it's, you know, you can use it at work. It's very readable. It's fun color, but it's not too wild and out there. It's not like really hard to read, you know, for anybody else who's reading your writing. It's very pleasant. You know, most of the more popular inks tend to be a little bit on the darker side anyway, just because they are so much easier to read. It looks very green. Wow. Okay. I haven't had just a lot of straight up Monteverde inks on here in these things. What are these called? Showdowns? Boy, that looks very green. Holy cow. Wow. Very, very different than Ku-jaku. Now the Ku-jaku, it's still leaning heavy blue, but I can definitely see more of that kind of green coming out. But by comparison, I mean, it's like not even close. But, you know, if you're not looking for a super hardcore teal, if you're looking something, I definitely wouldn't probably call it turquoise, you know. So teal is a more fitting color for it, but I think that'll be on the bluer end, probably. All right. Wow, that looks super duper duper green. So maybe that will dry up to not be so crazy green. But either way, we'll let that sit and we'll go to the next one. I don't know where to put it, I guess here. So, I don't know. We'll see how they shake out. LAMY Petrol. All right, now, me personally, I had to label my bottle because I have the original LAMY Petrol from when it was a special edition back in, what was it, 2017? But they brought this ink back. It's ever so slightly different, but not way off the mark. But even still, just for my own, historical reference and use in video form, which is for all posterity, I want to make sure that I have the correct ink when I'm swapping it up. So this is the currently available LAMY Petrol ink. Now this is going to be dark. I know it's going to be dark. I've used this ink. I've definitely used it in other videos, like when we came out with the Petrol All-Star. That's when this ink came out earlier this year. LAMY Petrol. Now, I did debate because when I was choosing the inks, the original list, I had LAMY, the crystal Amazonite on here. And I really debated because Amazonite is a lighter color. It's definitely in like kind of the teal family as well. And I really like that ink. But I went with Petrol here because it was a little bit different and it's the standard ink. And I don't know, I just thought it'd be cool to show. A lot of people have used Petrol. It's a fairly popular ink, so I thought it'd be nice to have, some of the more popular inks to use as a baseline for some of these others that are maybe less popular. Ooh, that's dark. Yeah, look at that. Oh, wow. Now it'll lighten up a bit. It's such a cool color. I'm curious, dumping this much ink down there, like what kind of sheen or whatever I'm going to get. Some of the LAMY ink, some of the recent ones, I think like dark lilac and all that, just dumps sheen out there. I don't remember how much Petrol does it, to be honest with you. It's been a minute since I've really put it down this heavy. So we're going to see. We're going to see how that does. Oh, it's definitely going to go to the front of the pile here in terms of darkness. Very, very heavy on the green. Not so much blue, but I think that the more the blue is going to come out as it dries. That California teal still is very, very green. That's crazy. Okay. There we go. 4 down, 6 to go. Pilot Iroshizuku Syo-ro. Another beautiful Iroshizuku bottle. Syo-ro. I haven't used this one as much. I use a lot of Konpeki and I'll use Ku-jaku, but Syo-ro, I overlook this one, I got to be honest with you. So I don't really have a lot of opinions to share at the moment. I'm going to kind of experience it as we go. The tint looks very blue, like here on the cap. What do y'all think so far? Does that look good? I kind of like that. That looks good. It's definitely darker. It's coming off darker than Ku-jaku. What if I like this ink the most? What if I've been sleeping on Syo-ro and it turns out this should be my go-to Iroshizuku? This is why I like doing these kind of things because, the more experience you get with inks, the more you find what you really like. But I will withhold my final judgment until it all dries because really that's what matters is once it dries. But I don't know, for me, the fountain pen experience, part of it is how the ink goes down as you're writing it, because a lot of the writing that I end up doing throughout the day is stuff that I write more just for quick notes or whatever, or stuff that I write down that I may not even go back and reference that often. But the very fact of me writing it down helps me remember it or helps me like formulate my idea different. So yeah, that is a consideration. Ooh, that is looking really interesting. It's lightening up a lot as it dries. Sort of like Ku-jaku was doing. There's some like greenish, almost kind of yellowish tones that are coming out. Very interesting. I don't know where this is going to shake out. I feel like California teal is darker than Ku-jaku at this point as it's dried up. I think because the rest of these are so kind of bluish looking, California teal is looking very green, but it is a teal. And then when I bring out the other swabs, towards the end of the video, when I bring out the turquoises, you're going to be like, whoa, these are super teal. Syo-ro, I don't know how that's going to stack up, if it's going to be darker than Ku-jaku or not, so I'm just going to leave it there until it has a chance to dry. But it's looking really nice. It's got a lot A lot of kind of color variation there. It's like leans more yellow, but also is darker. So we'll see how it dries. Halfway done. Robert Oster Tranquility. Now, being completely honest, I have not used this ink before. So this will be my first experience with it. I think it's a fairly popular turquoise though. You know, when I do pick inks for these showdowns, sometimes, you know, I'll go by like name. And so it doesn't matter how popular it is. I will just use it because that's what it, you know, if I'm going for a certain color range or something like that. But a lot of times, you know, I think it's generally useful to try to use inks that are popular that people actually like. So this is one of those. Whoa, this is wet. Holy cow. I just like dumped out that on the page. Okay. What is this color again? Tranquility? Wow. Now this is a glass pen, so take that for what it's worth, but good night. Look at how wet that was coming out there. Those of y'all that have had experience with Robert Oster Tranquility, does it write this wet in your pen too? I may have to ink this thing up afterwards and see how wet this thing flows. Seems like it gushes. Ooh, that color that's coming out though, I like that a lot. Ooh, okay. Ooh, yeah, I like this color. Huh. Well, I see why it's more popular. Ooh, it's just a really nice teal. It's just like perfect balance of blue and green. Yeah, that's really cool. I like that. All right. Didn't like gush out quite as much on the Kakimori. So that's kind of interesting. Maybe I need to like put more ink down. I'll put more ink down here on the bottom after I just wiped off the thing. I'll really dump it on. That way I can see, you know, how it looks when it's heavier. Because this feels like it didn't go down as heavy when I use the Kakimori. I don't know. We're making this up as I go. I can do whatever I want, right? Okay, so we'll see how that one dries. Is that one going to be lighter? It looks like Syo-ro. Is that darker than Ku-jaku? It feels like it's maybe a little bit darker. It's definitely got a little more green to it. Syo-ro. Maybe I've always leaned Ku-jaku because it is more blue. But wow, that Tranquility, I am into that. It's sort of like a lighter version of Emerald of Chivor, but without the sheen and the shimmer. Maybe it's got a little bit of sheen. I don't know. We don't know until it's dried. Okay, so this is, it seems like it's the lightest of the bunch. I don't know. We'll see if it ends up, we'll just put it here for now. Organic Studio, Aldous Huxley Old World Blue. Now this one was a bit of a wild card for me. I had 9 inks that were pretty clear that I wanted to use on this list. So I needed a 10th. And I was like, you know what? Organic Studio always gives you an experience. So we're going to see what this thing does. It's in the color range, so it's not like completely out there. But, you know, most of the organics inks are known for being sheen monsters. So we'll see if this one keeps that up. Organics Studio. Okay, how the heck do I spell this? The name is not written on the bottle, so I gotta actually reference it on my little computer screen here. Aldous Huxley. Luxley? Yeah, L-E-Y. Old World. Should have written this smaller because now my swab is going to be very small. But that's okay. I mean, there's still ink on the page. You're gonna get a picture of it. Okay, then we got the good old Kakimori. I definitely see some sheen coming out already on that text. Ooh, this is a nice color. This is a nice color. It's kind of going down like Tranquility was. But with organics, it's like definitely going to change. Now, Organic Studio does make some non-sheen monster inks, but honestly, that's just always the ones we've carried have been the sheen monsters. Because that's what's cool about them. People like that. Including the people being us at Goulet Pens. Okay. So that's looking dark. I grabbed tube swabs again. That's looking pretty dark. Honestly, the color's not far off from Emerald of Chivor. That's kind of interesting. I think of the organic studios, this one gets overlooked more. You know, things like Nitrogen and the Ruffalder Emerson, they're a little more popular. Yeah, let me move the Ku-jaku down. So, yeah, okay, I'll put that there. Boy, look how close those are. Oh, I touched the writing. Oh, well. Interesting. I'm seeing like a red sheen on basically all of these. I think that's just kind of, you know, going to be a property of these colors. Yeah, literally every one of these has a red sheen. Not always super crazy, but like a red like halo kind of on the outside. It's pretty cool. Wow, I'm really surprised how close Aldous Huxley Old World Blue is to Emerald of Chivor. So if you don't like Emerald of Chivor, if you don't like the shimmer in the Emerald of Chivor, give the Great Ink Studio a look. Okay, still got some drying, but we got 3 more inks to go, so let's do it. Sailor Shikiori Yamadori. All right, first Sailor ink of the day here. Now this is their 20 ml bottles. You know, their Shikiori inks are always in these little bottles. Sailor got a bunch of different like lines of ink in their series. The Shikiori ones are nice. Sailor more in the premium ink range. No crazy properties on this one, but I'm expecting a nice color. Shikiori Yamadori. It's a weird looking D. Sorry about that, folks. I could do multiple takes of these if I really wanted to, but you know, I figured I'd show you some more of the authenticness of it. The only time I'll do multiple takes is if I just like totally blow it. And then I'm just like, yeah, this is embarrassing. It's going to take me 5 minutes to clean up my mess, and I'm not trying to hide the fact that I make mistakes, but it's just not very entertaining to watch a goofball clean up his mess. Okay. Yamadori. Oh, this is definitely leaning more blue. Nice color, though. I've used Yamadori some. Not a ton, but I've used it some. Challenge is Sailor has so many inks out there. It's like, where do you start? Where do you start? It's a great brand to get a whole bunch of samples of because they have just so many colors. Okay. It's nice. It's definitely leaning more on the blue. It's got a bit of a gray lean to it. Interesting. I'm curious how it'll dry, of course. So I'm just going to tack it on at the end there until it dries a little bit more. But let's do 2 more. Diamine Tariff Teal. Yeah, I don't know if I would have named this at this point because that word could be kind of triggering. But either way. I can't remember when these came out. 160 years. Oh, I should know that off the top of my head. It's less than a year. Less than a year these have been out. I think they came out last year. They're nothing crazy, but these inks are nice. Like these are cool bottles. They're big. But I really like them. They look nice. These are just like celebration, like an anniversary kind of ink. I think they came out with 6 inks at one time, if I remember correctly, in this series. All right, so Diamine. Oh boy, that's wet. Diamine, and then what is this called? Tariff Teal. Ironically enough, since we started carrying these inks, there's now a tariff that's on these coming from the UK. Gotta love 2025, huh? Okay, let's see. It's very dark. It's going down very dark and very blue. But, you know, it doesn't matter because it's got teal in the name. So that's what I was going with. So let's see how it shakes out to some of the other teals. Very blue, very gray. It's a very interesting color. I don't know that I would necessarily jump to teal in my mind, but I will withhold my final judgment until it's all dry. It's definitely looking more of like I want to say smoky blue. Does that make sense? Definitely more of a gray blue. Is that still teal? I don't know. Where is the cutoff? Like you get where you can like the teal can run into more of the turquoises, and then you got to decide like where's the cutoff there. But then you also run into like, you know, teals can run in more into like a dark blue or a dark green. Like where is the line there too? I don't know. Who makes up these rules? Well, it's definitely dark. Man. I don't know if it's going to end up darker than Emerald of Chivor and Aldous Huxley. But I'm going to go ahead and shift Tranquility because I feel like Yamadori is darker actually than Ku-jaku even Syo-ro. I think Shikiori Yamadori needs to go up here. Syo-ro and Ku-jaku, I can't tell which one I want to call lighter. This has got more sheen to it, so it's kind of making it look a little lighter. And the Tariff teal. Oh, I just moved everything around. Well, this is pretty dark. All right, well, I'll just do the last one, and then I'll mix them all around. I don't feel like moving everything right now. Monteverde Tidepool Teal. All right, now this is a Goulet exclusive. We designed this with Monteverde, and it's a shimmer. It's kind of cool. You can see the shimmer, like, you know, floating around in there. It's hard to tell this angle because when I hold it up, then the ink's not at the top, but whatever. You get the idea. Definitely need to shake this one a bit because there's a pretty good amount of shimmer in this one. Now I know this one's probably gonna be the lightest looking one of the bunch because of the shimmer in here. It's a pretty generous amount of shimmer. We do love our shimmer. All right, there we go. Got the shimmer all mixed up in there. So I'll set those swabs aside. This is just a little 30 ml bottle. Monteverde does smaller bottles, but they also have bigger bottles, as you saw earlier with California Teal. So it all depends on how much you want to get. But we did this as exclusive, and it was kind of a specialty ink, so we were like, 90 mils of some shimmer ink like this is probably a bit much for most people. Monteverde, Tidepool, Teal. Again, one of the few inks with teal actually in the name. And we chose it, so I guess we're helping out the world in that respect. Now, how teal is it compared to these other ones? I mean, I know this ink, but I have not stacked it up next to a whole bunch of other teals. So I'm curious how this is going to look, especially with having as much shimmer as it does in there. It's a little bit on the greener side, which I think is totally fine. Because I always associate a pretty heavy green in with my teals. I think turquoises should definitely lean more blue. There we go. It's looking pretty normal right now, but that shimmer's coming. It's coming for you once it dries up. And then I'll shift all these around, see where they need to go to get a nice little arrangement. Well, that's all 10. So I'll give it a minute and then we'll rearrange. Okay, so I'm gonna move all these. I'm just gonna move them completely out of the way because trying to shift these down like one at a time is a huge pain. LAMY Petrol is definitely the darkest. I feel like Tariff Teal is next. And then, is Yamadori darker? No, I don't think so. I think we're going to have, I want to say Aldous Huxley is darker than Emerald of Chivor. There's that. Okay, Emerald of Chivor. And then Yamadori looks good there. And then where do we go from here? California Teal probably is next. And then, these two. I don't know which one's darker and which one's lighter. I feel like I keep changing my mind back and forth. I think Syo-ro. It's really kind of a tie, honestly. It depends on how much the light's hitting it and whether the sheen comes out more in the Syo-ro. Tidepool Teal. Boy, it's not like fully dry yet. Tranquility is definitely the lightest of the bunch. So I know that's going to go there. Tidepool Teal. I feel pretty good about that. It's only going to get lighter as it dries. There we go. That is my final answer. All right, I've got them all laid out from darkest to lightest-ish. Around here, the Syo-ro, Ku-jaku, Tidepool Teal, it's kind of hard to tell exactly where it should be. Like Tidepool Teal might be a little darker than these, but you know, when the shimmer hits it, it looks a little lighter. I also realized I never crossed the T on my Monteverde Tidepool Teal, so it looks like Monteverde. So you'll just have to know that that's a little Easter egg for you, for those of you who watched the video this far in. Nice looking colors. Basically, everything has a red sheen. I think that's just a property of, you know, teal colors in this range. But I got a red, not a heavy sheen on everything, but at least a red kind of outline, which is honestly kind of cool with these inks. I feel like if you're using them on a less ink resistant paper, so something slightly more absorbent, and if you're using them in something that's not quite as wet, maybe you won't see that sheen coming up as much. That might just be like some, what's it called? What's this paper called? Tomoe River. It might be just some Tomoe River magic that's happening there, that's pulling it out. But yeah, I mean, petrol's the lightest, or sorry, darkest. Tranquility's the lightest. Tranquility, I gotta say, that's the one that jumps out at me after swabbing all these. I am gonna have to ink this up in a pen because how bright this is, and then, you know, kind of the distinctness of the thing with the sheen and all that. I'm gonna give this one a shot. I'm gonna see what it's all about. I had no experience with the Aldous Huxley Old World Blue. I'm amazed at how close it is to Emerald of Chivor. Now, Emerald of Chivor, you have the shimmer in there, but honestly, the shimmer is not super prominent. It never really has been with Emerald of Chivor. I think because it's such a dark ink, it's so saturated. They don't blast it with shimmer. So it's just like a hint of it. Certain papers will bring that out more than others. But yeah, it is really interesting. So if you're not as crazy, especially on the price of Emerald of Chivor, maybe give the Old World Blue a look. It is more of a sheener though, I will say. And I don't know about dry time and cleanliness and stuff like that. Organic Studio, they make beautiful inks, but they are usually more maintenance. So maybe that's a factor for you, but get samples of both, try them out. Tariff Teal, pretty dark, kind of close to petrol. It's got a little bit smokier though. Maybe it's a little better shader, you know, especially here. California Teal is the greenest of the bunch. Yamadori's got some decent sheen as well. I'm really pleased with all of these. You know, Tidepool Teal is drying up here. It's got shimmer, but it's not like, you know, knocking your eyes out of your head. These are all beautiful colors. I would ink any single one of these up in a pen, to be quite honest with you. So next thing I wanted to do, I wanted to pull out the turquoises. I'm gonna try to make some room here because at least in the fountain pen ink world, there's definitely a difference between the teals and the turquoises. Now, how much you can see it in this video will be one thing. So I will lay all these out in one beautiful grid. Now, these are just in the order that I ended up doing them last time. This is not necessarily in color order of how dark they are. Sorry about that. There we go. So Organic Studio Alanine, I said in my turquoise video, I probably should have included it with teal. Absolutely, I should have. That was a total outlier. My bad. That was just my fault. Diamine Marine, y'all let me know. That is so borderline. It's definitely lighter and brighter than any of these other teals. I think this is actually more of what I typically associate with turquoise. The rest of these are so aqua, so blue. But they all look really nice. I love blues in this color range. I love teals in this range. Honestly, there's nothing bad happening right here. I would ink every single one of these up in my pens, probably all at the same time, and then there would probably be a cleaning nightmare, but they all look awesome. So I wanted to show them all together so you could see what they all look like together, and now I've done that. So I want to thank you for watching this. I had a really good time. I always love swabbing and playing with beautiful inks, and these two inks in these color ranges are like some of my favorites. So I'm glad you got to hang out with me while I did these ones. We have samples and bottles of all of these over at gouletpens.com. So I highly recommend you go check literally all of these out because they're all awesome. We have lots of other fountain pen things, ink, paper, all that good stuff over there as well. Please let me know what colors I should do next because I'm going to keep the ink showdown thing going. So anything I haven't done yet, let me know. and maybe you'll see me again soon with another showdown. Thank you so much for watching, and right on.